Good evening. Are we in the room? Yes. Great. So good to see you all. Thank you so much, Mr. Dosso. It is such an honor and a privilege for me to be here. And because I'm a pastor, I will read my speech. Because when you're invited as a pastor and you do not have a speech, hallelujah, you may speak for 1 hour if it is not written. So allow me to read my speech. And again, let me say thank you so much for the honor of being here, and so great to stand before great, wonderful men and women this afternoon, and the co-authors of Navigating Change. What an honor. Let's give them another clap just to appreciate. This is a huge milestone, and we celebrate you. So good evening, everyone. I'm deeply honored and genuinely humbled to stand before you today. And before I say anything else, I want to honor a man whose vision made this moment possible, Mr. Dosso Radido, who is the founder and director of Zion Publishers. Sir, what you are doing is not just publishing. You are creating architecture for transformation. You are building rooms where women's voices that the world might never have heard, are given walls. They are given a roof and a platform. That is holy work, and that's a ministry. So may God bless you together with your team, and may God continue to enlarge the borders of your vision beyond what you currently see. To all the co-authors, the 9, I see you, I honor you, and I know something of what it took to sit down, look inside, and dare to put your story into words for the world to hold. I know because of a year ago, as you heard, I sat where you're sitting now. As we launched The Way She Leads, I know the mix of pride and vulnerability that fills the room, just like we are right here. So let me say this clearly. Enjoy every single moment. Enjoy it, savor it. Soak it in. Let it build. And don't just let it build, but build on it. Because what this book opens for you is only just the beginning. So you have begun a journey with this book. And to every person who came to celebrate, thank you. May you leave this room celebrated in return because of celebrating each one of them. Let's give them a clap. Everyone that is here, we appreciate you. Thank you for celebrating with the co-authors, with the authors right here. One day, may you also be celebrated in a room like this. And let me also celebrate my daughter who came with me. You know, she told me, please don't talk about me. Well, it's like that with teens, but I cannot forget to appreciate her, that she's here with me. Let's appreciate Abijah Tehila, an upcoming author and a businesswoman. So 6 months ago, I sat in a meeting room that I had walked into several times. I knew where the light switch was. I knew everything about that room because it was my everyday office to go to. I had files, a diary full of plans, and even flight tickets to South America. I had spent 15 years rising through the ranks in global organizations. managing employee projects, leading across different time zones, as you heard, navigating the complexity of human systems at scale. Yeah, I did it all. And in about 11 minutes, I walked out of that room without any of it. No title, no role, no schedule, cancelled the flight to Brazil. After 20 years of employment, continuous employment, for the first time in my adult life, I was simply unemployed. And 23 days later, I lost my dad, my cheerleader. It was a season I did not know what to think or what to do. But before you start feeling sorry for me, don't. And this happened 6 months ago that we are talking about, okay? So because what I'm about to share with you is not a story about losing, it's a story about finding yourself when everything that defined you has been stripped away. The titles, the big names, the travel, everything I knew was gone in 11 minutes. And so this is a story about finding your footing when the ground seems to have disappeared. It's a story about finding that change, the very thing that terrifies us, as all the authors have talked about here. And sometimes the most generous, most precise, and most loving gift that God gives us. Can you imagine that? It is precisely why we are all gathered here today, to celebrate a book that refuses to let any of us be afraid of change. To Benta, Catherine, Julia, Catherine Moriah, Evelyn, Jacqueline, Lillian, Anne, Paulette, every story of courage that fills the pages of navigating change. Thank you. And that's not a polite thank you. It's a deep down thank you, because I have worn the shoes that you have worn in the writing of that book. Because you did the hardest thing a leader can do. You told the truth about your journey, and not the polished version. Not the curated, LinkedIn filtered high reels that we see. Right? But the real version, the stumbles, the breakthroughs, the nights you questioned everything, and the mornings you showed up anyway. So it's not a theory. Navigating change, it's not a theory. It's a testimony. There's a profound difference between the two. The theory tells you what change is, but the testimony shows you what change does. And more importantly, what it can make of you. And that's what the authors have brought out. And so I want you to notice something. Even the subtitle is an act of audacity. Most of us are still praying to survive change, right? These authors are telling us to trigger it, to optimize it, and to capitalize on the change when it comes. And so this is not just a book that you're reading, it's a movement written in ink but carried in courage. I want to give you 3 insights today that I've drawn from this book, from my own journey, and And from 20 years of working with some of the most extraordinary human beings in global organizations. So the first, change is not an event, it's a process. We treat change like a moment, a retrenchment, a diagnosis, a resignation, a promotion, a pandemic, and we mark the dates, we circle it on the calendar. Sometimes we want to remember it as a memorial, as if it's a thing. But change is never just the moment. Change is the long, disorienting, sometimes luminous journey that begins the morning after. In my years in HR, I've sat across tables from hundreds of people on the day their world changed, just like mine did. The day they received their letter, the day they were told that the department was restructuring, I watched how people processed those moments very differently. Some froze, some bargained, some got angry at the HR, and some, the ones I always watched more closely, they were still. They didn't know what to say or how to react. Not passive, not resigned, just still. Like they had an inner anchor the storm could not reach. That stillness, I have come to understand, is not a personality trait. It's a spiritual posture. It is what the psalmist meant when he wrote, "Be still and know that I am God." It's a muscle you build in the quiet, in the word, in the practice of trust before the crisis comes. Not during, before. This book is your training ground. Read it before you need it. And if you're in the middle of it right now, read it as a survival guide, because it was written by women who found their way through. My second insight is that wilderness is not a punishment. It's a preparation. When my role was made redundant, I did what any high-functioning, self-respecting achiever would do. I prayed, I updated my CV, I made calls, I reorganized my home office, I attended webinars, I downloaded productivity apps, the things that everything that we tell everyone else to do, that we never got to do. I was very busy, purposeful. And underneath all that activity, underneath the structured days and the networking and the performance of resilience, I was terrified. Because that's a paycheck gone. I've been earning in dollars for the last 6 years. You don't know what inflation is. And suddenly, it no longer exists. I was terrified because for the first time in 20 years, I didn't know what to call myself. HR director? Is it former leader of what? Yes, I'm a wife. Always, 23 years in that journey. A mother. I love it. But professionally, who was I without a title? Then one morning, in the quiet, the kind of quiet that only comes when you finally stop running from yourself and from everything that has happened, I had one word, just one word, from the only voice that has never been wrong. And the word was rest. Not hustle, not pivot, not rebrand your personal brand, just rest. And I want to be completely honest, rest felt like failure. Because in the world we have been socialized into, and especially, particularly as women of faith who have been taught that our work is our worship. A woman without a schedule can feel like a woman without value, that you no longer matter. We have been trained to produce, to perform, to prove ourselves that at every table you have something to offer. And rest disrupts all that. I now know better that standing on this side of the wilderness, rest is not inactivity. Rest is recalibration. Rest is what happens when God, in his wisdom and his love, decides that the version of you that exists right now is too small for the assignment he's preparing you for. And he needs to do some work on the inside before the outside can catch up. And so he has to take away what's underneath, what you're used to, the comfort zone. Moses spent 40 years in the wilderness before he stood before Pharaoh. Joseph spent time in the pit and in a prison before he stood in a palace. David was anointed years before he was crowned. The wilderness is never a waste. It is always a workshop. And God does his finest work in us in the seasons that feel like silence. Sometimes the most strategic move you will ever make is the one you make in stillness. So the authors of this book understand this. Their stories carry this truth in their bones, that transitions, disruptions, uncertainties are not detours from your destiny. They are the road itself. And if you're in one right now, a career gap, a season of uncertainty, a chapter that doesn't yet have a title, I need you to hear me clearly. From one traveler to another, you're not stuck. You're being shaped. My third and final insight, and this is what I want you to carry out of this room and put it to work, is that strategic positioning begins on the inside. So in a world of HR and organizational strategy, we talk a great deal about positioning, about visibility, about influence, about being in the right room with the right people. I have built those frameworks. I have taught them. I believe in them. External positioning matters. But the leaders I've coached and I have worked with, the women I have worked with through their seasons of change, the executives I've watched rebuild after devastating transitions, the ones who came out not just intact but transformed, they always did something fast. Before the new CV, before the calls, before the strategy, they went inward. Who am I when no one is watching? What do I value when I have nothing to prove? You know, we are so used to proving something to somebody. But who am I? What do I value when I don't have anything to prove? What am I building and for whom? What is the story I am telling myself about this season? And is it true? They came back to the foundation. For me, that foundation is my faith. The God who called me before I had a business card. Who coaches me better than any executive coach. Much respect to the executive coaches. And who has carried me through every transition I have ever faced. That's my anchor. Because here's what I have learned as a HR strategist and as a builder of people. You cannot build a great system on an unstable foundation. And you cannot build the next chapter of your life from a place of fear, comparison, or an examined identity. You build from the inside out, always. And this is what I'm building in my HR Legacy Lift program. And it is about looking on the inside. And let me talk something about capacity building that this book speaks powerfully about. And it's not about adding more credentials to your name. It is about expanding your interior landscape, your courage, your clarity, your ability to hold complexity without collapsing. When you do that work, the hard, honest, sometimes painful interior work, you don't scramble to catch up with opportunity when it arrives. You are already positioned. You are ready, and you're more than enough. So today, I stand before you at peace. I do not have a new title to announce. I do not have a new role to unveil. What I have is something richer, a deep, settled certainty that when the right door opens, I will walk through it as a greater, fuller, more anchored version of the woman who walked out of that meeting room 6 months ago. And I will not trade this season, not one single difficult, disorienting, necessary day for anything. So here is what I'm asking of you as I conclude. Whether you're a co-author, a colleague to a co-author, a friend, a family member, or just somebody sitting in this room or watching us online, carrying a transition you haven't told anyone about, buy this book, not as a souvenir, not as a coffee table piece. Buy it as a working document. Underline it. Argue with it. Dog-ear the pages. Let it disturb your comfort in the best way possible. Let the stories of these women crack open your own story, and let the light come through every creak. So read it with intention. Apply it with courage. Tell that woman inside of you that there's a roadmap already written by women who stood at that same crossroad and who chose to walk through and made it to the other side with something to show for it. To the authors, you did not just write a book, you built a bridge. Every woman who reads these pages will walk across that bridge into a version of their life they could not have imagined without your courage in the way. That is not just authorship. It is leadership, it is ministry, and it is a legacy. So may you navigate every change with grace and with unshakable knowledge that you are made for this. This is for everyone in the room. May you find the opportunity where others only see obstacles. May you find purpose where others find only pain. May you be so deeply rooted in who God says that you are, that no storm, no restructuring, no season of silence can uproot what God has planted in you. And may this book not just be a launch, but a commissioning, a sending forth of 9 women and all who read their words into the fullest, most powerful, most gloriously aligned version of who you are always meant to be. Congratulations. And now let's launch the book.